Hello and welcome back to the Heart of Titus with Dan and Tony. This is our last episode of Avoiding Spiritual Anesthesia, protecting and guarding our hearts during the end times. And we hope that you've enjoyed this series. We've enjoyed bringing it to you. And if you have, please like and subscribe. That's an encouragement to us, but it also lets other people know that this might be something that they might want to see or listen to. We would also like if you would drop us a note or a question or anything on the teachings. Let us know what you thought, and if you have some ideas, because if you have a question about what's been taught, I'm sure there's many other people who are thinking the very same thing. So email us at admin@heartoftitus.org, and you can go to our website and see more about our ministry and what we're doing at heartoftitus.org. Now, we're going to finalize this whole series by jumping back into Matthew 25 as we're talking about the parable of the talents. And we're going to jump right in as Tony's focusing in on the one who got a single talent. Enjoy.
I want to go next to the guy who got the one talent.
Yeah.
And he says in verse 24, he also who had received the one talent came forward saying, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here you have what is yours. Man, what blame shifting.
Yep.
He's given the talent, he's given the responsibility, and he's not the guy who gets to make the rules. The master gets to make the rules, right? But he didn't obey the rules. He didn't do what his master wanted him to do. And he came up with an excuse. And he said, well, I know you're hard, and I was afraid. But you see how the master responded.
Yeah.
You wicked and slothful or lazy, right? Servant. Yeah. You knew that I reap where I haven't sown and gather where I scatter no seed. Then you ought to have invested my money, at least with the bankers. And at my coming, I should have received what was my own with interest. So here, the master calls him out.
Mm-hmm.
You claim to hide behind fear, but the truth is you're lazy.
Right.
You claim to blame me, that I'm a bad guy, that I'm a hard guy, but the truth is you're the one that's wicked.
You didn't do the work.
Yeah. Yeah. So now with that, that is the judgment of the court. Mm-hmm. Now there's the sentence. Yep. Since you have been revealed to have had a wicked heart, no matter what you profess with your mouth, no matter what excuses you give, once I've determined and discerned that you are a lazy, wicked son of a gun. Look at verse 27.
Oh, yeah.
Or 28. So take the talent from him and give it to him who has the 10 talents.
Yep.
For to everyone who has will more be given, and he will have an abundance, but from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. So the first judgment you see here is that what little you have, it's going to be taken from you. And the second thing he says is it makes your hair stand up. I mean, and this is Jesus talking. And cast the worthless servant into the outer darkness. In that place, there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Geez, an eternal darkness where you're continually weeping and gnashing your teeth. Dan, what would gnashing of teeth indicate?
Oh my gosh. It's the parallel of being sent to hell. It's the being in utter torment, and of having no reprise, no protection, no help, no even hope. And that's the thing that, again, I think it's so important that we look at this parable in the context where it's at, because he's talking about this is going to happen. He's giving us a picture, but he's saying this is what's going to be the outcome for those who have been given but did absolutely nothing with it. And it to me, these are those verses, these are those passages that make you go, okay, God, thank you for the wake up call. Thank you
Yes.
for that thing of going, oh, maybe I'm a little bit wishy-washy about this. Oh no, there is not a wishy-washy on this. This is I've given you something and I'm expecting you to use it to further the kingdom. And if you're not going to use it to further the kingdom, not only is it going to be taken from you, but you will be punished for your lack of work and lack of doing.
Well, clearly, Dan, this is not popular theology.
No.
This is not what our itching ears want to hear. But the Lord is judge, and He has the right to do that. And He,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just, who's the vase that talk back to the potter and say, "Why'd you make me like this?" I
Yep.
mean, this is where we are. When I think of gnashing of teeth, I'm thinking about people who knew they had it within their grasp and they lost it
Mm-hmm.
because of their own stupidity or their own evil. And can you imagine in eternity to regret not getting ready, not staying awake, not investing the call and the giftings and the graces that you've received? And somebody out there listening might say, "Well, you're trying to beat us into submission." Well, I'm just quoting the words of Jesus and their obvious ramifications. We can't tear this out of the Bible because
Right.
it's not convenient to our view of grace. So this is meant to be encouragement and maybe an exhortation.
Mm-hmm.
There are consequences that should motivate us. I will tell you that having been an employer for many years, that paychecks and the desire for promotion are encouraging and they do provide great motivation. But the greatest motivation is the fear of losing your job.
Mm.
That if you don't do it well, if you don't please the boss, um, and that's why people don't like working for irrational or curmudgeony bosses, because
Right.
they could get fired at a moment's without cause.
Right.
But God's not that kind of God.
No.
He's
And
gonna
it says that he says that he's not that kind of guy, even though this
yeah.
guy was trying to put that on him. He's not that type of guy. He's not that type of master. And yeah, the we talk about how this is heavy. This is clearly, if you had a theology that everyone's love and everyone's going to heaven and everyone, clearly when you read what Jesus actually says in Matthew 24 and 25, he's not saying that at all. He's not saying that it's going to be just this unlimited, just do whatever you want, be whoever you want, and you're just going to be able to walk the streets into the kingdom of heaven. Um, and
It is
that
all
is
by
even,
grace. It is all by grace. I
it
mean,
is all by grace.
but we're His workmanship, created in Him to do good works.
Right.
That's the effect of His grace within us. And if we don't allow the grace to manifest because we're distracted, we're spiritually sleeping, we're under spiritual anesthesia, we're we're going to have to give account for that.
Yep.
And Jesus is telling us is that it's not going to be a sham. It's not going to be a sham court. It's there's going to be real judgment doled out.
Yep. Well, and if that wasn't enough, he follows it up in verse 31, basically to the end of the chapter,
Yes.
where he talks about the sheeps and the goats. And if you had any doubt, I think that here in this time is where Jesus is saying, listen, we were giving you the parables, the pictures, the stories here to kind of get you in the right frame of mind. Now here, let me kind of do we're going to ram it home here with this parable about the sheep and the goats. And it says in verse 32, before him will be gathered all the nations, and he will separate the people from one another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will place the sheep on his right and the goats on the left. And then verse 34, the king will say to those on his right, come, you are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. And clearly, Jesus is saying, listen, you're all going to be together. This idea of that you're going to be, you know, separate, you're going to be, nope, you're all going to be together. And in the final days, all of them will become before me. And then I will separate who's going to enter into the kingdom and who will not.
I am I'm amazed that out of the billions and billions of lives that are alive now and that have been alive ever since God created us, that he's going to be able to divide us into just two groups.
Mm.
It's kind of an interesting thing. We today militate against categorization. We don't like, we call that discrimination.
Yeah.
But God is going to call things as he sees them. And the distinction here is pretty clear. And again, if you don't have the fear of God, but then you sit down to read this, you will gain the fear of God, because again, it's based upon conduct. The sheep, turns out, as you go on to read, are the ones who acted lovingly like our Creator. And the goats are the ones who didn't spontaneously go and help those who were in need. This is where it says, for I was hungry and you gave me the food, and I was thirsty and you gave me drink, and I was a stranger and you welcomed me, and I was naked and you clothed me, I was sick and you visited me. I mean, all of this to the point where the people say, well, then the righteous will answer, the righteous meaning the sheep, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? And when do we, so they don't even know when he's talking about.
Right.
God is looking at the little things that you do spontaneously when nobody is looking.
Mm.
And I'm telling you, man, that is scary. Because you see the converse, right, Dan, in verse 38, or back in verse 41, excuse me.
Yeah,
Then he
41.
those on his left, depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. Let me just park there for a minute. So there are some people, even Christians, that say there's no hell. Where does that come from?
Yeah.
That comes out of wishful thinking in their own mentalities, because this verse here, among many others, makes it very clear that there's an eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels that human beings get to go to if they act more like the devil than the Lord. And I'm sorry, they may believe that Jesus is Lord, they may confess that he is Lord, but by their actions, they've denied him because they're not doing the things that he said for us to do, or doing the things that are in his nature to do. And our very nature is what we need to nurture. I'm sorry for the pun there, but this is what we need to remain awake and alert about. We should never coast. We should never think that I've done enough good things in my life. If you let your heart grow hard, if your love grows cold, you're going to miss it, because Jesus, again, earlier says, he who perseveres to the end will be saved. These are extremely negative consequences. And I have this saying that I've developed, and I suppose it's not that uncommon, but, we're saved by what we believe. We're saved by our faith through grace, but we're going to be judged by our works. God's not going to play psychological games with us on the day of judgment. He's going to look at what our deeds were as written in the book, and he's going to make his judgments accordingly. And it says in, I think, Revelation 19 or 20, that the righteous are going to be clothed with fine linen, which represents the righteous acts of the saints. We're going to be known forever by what we did with the grace that was poured into our lives by our Lord. He's invested part of himself in us, and he's expecting that to bear fruit for his glory. And those of us who are faithful, well done, good and faithful servants, we're going to be known by that time you helped that old lady cross the street, that time you preached to a group of only 3 teenagers who didn't want to hear you, but one of them got saved anyway. God's that time you changed the diapers of somebody else's kids in the children's nursery. God is going to reward you, and you're going to be known, she who changes diapers in the nursery of other kids, other people's kids,
Clothed and naked.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, so I'm kind of on a roll there, but go ahead, Dan. Go ahead.
No, 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 no. I again, you know, these are supposed to be this is supposed to be an encouragement. And when you look at chapter 25 and chapter 24, you got to remember, take all the chapters out of there and put it all together. It's all a cohesive thought and idea that we are supposed to be focusing on Jesus, and we're supposed to be doing the work that he has called us to do, and we are supposed to fulfill our calling and use our talents and be there and minister to those who are in need. And in the end times, there's going to be distractions, there's going to be all this that's going to happen, it's all going to pull on us, it's all going to try to squirrel, and try to get our attention away from what needs to be done. But as you put these parables with the teachings that Jesus just did in chapter 24, you understand that we are supposed to focus on doing the work of the ministry and following him. And that's it. And that's the thing. It's that we don't have to be afraid of the end times. We have to be prepared. We have to be doing the work. We have to not be lazy. And ultimately, we've got to wake up and make sure that this coming age isn't putting us to sleep.
Yeah, Dan, very well said. I just want to kind of close this teaching on this parable by saying that um, don't allow teachings regarding who's saved, who's not saved, when Jesus is coming back, when he's not coming back, to undermine your zeal to
Right.
do the good works of the Lord, to put into expression the faith and the grace that he's put within your heart. Faith without works really is dead. Paul writes that the only thing that counts is faith expressing itself through love. Um, Paul also writes in 1 Corinthians 12, now the manifestation of the Spirit is given to each one for the common good. God is looking to manifest, reveal, release out of your life something good. And that's why we're here.
Mhm.
End times are going to erode our desire to do that, but we must remain strong. We must build ourselves up in our most holy faith. We have to just cling to Jesus for all that we're worth. And when we read these scriptures, believe that they apply to us and not somebody else.
Yes.
That's the biggest fault I see in so many churches, is that we excuse so many of these hard teachings as being applicable to somebody else. But take a risk,
Mhm.
apply them to your own life, not to make yourself feel bad, but to say, Lord, if you gave me this word, you gave it because you wanted to make me better. Lord, motivate me as you desire, pour your grace on me as you desire, so that I can be more like you, that I can even look for people in prison to visit, that I can even look for the naked to clothe and the hungry to feed, Lord, because I want to have the heart that you have, which is a giving heart, not one
Yeah.
that's always worried about how I can take care of my own desires. So
Yeah.
that's my
Amen.
piece.
Amen. We're hoping that these last four podcasts have been an encouragement to you, and we would really like to hear from you to what you thought about these podcasts. Please go and email us at dan@heartoftitus.org and give us some feedback of what you thought of what we taught. If you have a question about what we taught, about a take that we have or something we said, please let us know so that we can respond to you. Again, like I said, if you're thinking that question or you had that confusion, I bet you there's 10 to 15 other people that had the same thought. So don't be afraid. Email us, let us know. That's dan@heartoftitus.org. And we want to encourage you. Our goal at this ministry is to encourage you and to spur you on to be ready, to be that bride that is looking forward to the king coming and doing the work of the ministry that he's called us to do. really want us all to come up with a bag of talents so that we can just lay them at the feet of Jesus when he comes, and that we can say, this is what we did. This is what we did in your name and for your glory and for your kingdom. So once again, thank you so much for being a part of our podcast. We want you to like and subscribe to it and let other people know. And hopefully this might minister to them as well. Tony, you got anything else you want to say?
No, that's it, man. God bless everybody.
God bless y'all. And we'll see you again on the Heart of Titus.